Hi, my name is Rich Baker, and this is Improv Breakdown.
Where a student that looks like me can walk into a classroom and see, like, oh, okay, we're doing this too.
Like, so Josh, I was like,
Wow.
Any different things?
Yeah.
My hands. It's like
That was it.
Welcome to Improv Breakdown. My name is Rich, and I am honored to be joined today by hilarious funny man, improv instructor, Barack Obama impersonator, a fellow secret agent of comedy on Mission Improbable, Patrick Rowland. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Just had to throw in that voice. No, but seriously, thanks for having me on. Anytime.
If you did the whole interview in that voice, that would just be like some straight Andy Kaufman style. I won't talk like myself. Your impression's great. Fantastic. Let's just start with what is it about improv that made Patrick Rowland go, I'll do that?
All right, cool. So back in 2006, I'm in Chicago. I'm originally from Chicago, and I saw a show for the Chicago Improv Festival. It was the Mad TV writers, because I think there was like a writing strike around that time.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had a show, and I was like, I saw it in the paper. I was like, Mad TV. I love Mad TV. Have no idea what improv is. I just want to see Mad TV.
Because you're from Chicago originally, right?
Yeah, west side of Chicago.
Nice.
And it, like, the show blew me away. And yes, I was a little bit high off of weed, but still, I was like, this is so good. And from my neck of the woods, the only forms of comedy was like stand up, and I didn't know anything about improv. So after the show, I went home and got on my Dell computer because it's 2006.
For context.
And I put in like improv training Chicago, and Second City popped up. And I was like, oh, they teach classes here. Mind you, I'm a very shy, introverted person at that time. I'm still shy and introverted, but not to the extent I was back then. So I was like, I'll take writing classes because that way I can write. And I don't have to worry about getting on stage. And it was fun. We would read our sketches out in class, and I loved like taking on different characters as I was reading other people's sketches. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try the improv class. And it's just something about, I was always a class clown. I was always the weird guy, and people would always like look at me when I would do Pee Wee Herman impersonations or just act like how I act. I would always get looks of like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? Taking improv classes, I would do the same bits, and instead of people looking at me like I was weird, they were like joining in. They were like heightening it, and I felt it was one of those things. I felt so accepted, and I felt like this is my tribe. And I remember signing up for a class and calling my mother on my Nokia phone just for more context. And telling her, like, I think I found what I want to do. And at that time, I've been working at the post office, and I was just, like, looking for, like, just something to do for fun because I hated working there. And, like, this was just so much fun. I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this.
So you weren't like a theater actor or a stand-up or anything? You were just, this was your first entry point into any kind of comedy?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was one of those things that like intimidated me because like in class, sometimes we go about like, oh, why'd you sign up for class? And people are like, oh, well, I was part of my improv troupe at college, and I did theater here and there. And I was like, I watched Saturday Night Live a lot.
I mean, wasn't that all of our entry point of like, those guys are funny. Well, can I do that?
Basically.
I like, right, same. Like, we're just a bunch of weirdos who can break out into bits at any time, and it's like, oh, my fellow weirdos. God bless us all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I can talk to people who aren't comedians, but it's not as fun.
It's really not.
It's like, it's fine. Can I talk to the comedians again?
Yeah.
But you have branched out, like, so you start out as writing, but, like, you've branched out, then, I mean, you do scripted stuff. Do you do stand-up as well?
I started doing stand-up like right around the time, a little bit before when shit hit the fan. Like I dabbled in it a little bit where I took a stand-up class at Second City because I needed like I need like a structure of like this is how to write jokes and how to come up with ideas. And so I've done like a bunch of open mics, and then when I was like gonna get like serious, then the world was like, nah, no thanks. We're going to
No,
shut down
we're good.
we're going to shut down for a year. If you really love it, when we open up, you'll still be doing it.
It's the ultimate like, how many people aren't going to come back because they're just like, screw it. It's like the people who really want it are like when we're in non-quarantine. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
So you've been doing improv since 2006. So you're rocking 14 years. Like, what is it about improv that keeps you, like, are you still finding new challenges and new fun with it?
Definitely. That was the thing. That's one of the reasons I knew I loved this, because I've tried several different career paths, and I would do it for like a couple of months or a year, and I was like, man, fuck this. Because I remember I was like, ooh, bowling. I love bowling. It's like, I'm gonna be the first black well-known PBA person. I had bowling balls. I had the shoes. I had like the chalk, all that stuff. I had like a 160 average, and then after a while, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But the thing, I don't know what, I think it's just the whole thing of the tenets of improv, just the support, listening, right? Like a lot of people, when you say improv, they're like, oh yeah, the first rule is yes and. Me, I say the first rule is just listening, because I can't yes and you if I don't hear what the hell you say. And it's so cool to not just listen, but people listening to understand what you're saying, where you're coming from. And I think like it goes past the whole art of comedy and just goes into just being a fucking good person, where and I think it's made me a better person, because there'd be times where I talk to people and I'm just like, okay, I wish they'd shut up so I can say my thing.
Sure.
And now I listen, it's like, oh, you make a valid point and this and that. And it's opened me up to a bunch of things. And I feel like it's just that inclusion and that love of and listening and being heard, and also being able to get my voice out, to know that like I can, as an individual, speak my truth, but also contribute to what the team is doing, and they will build on my ideas and I'll build on theirs. And it's just like, it's always something new and challenging for me, which I love.
Yeah, I love that, because and you're right, like, because improv, other people have said it way better than me, but like improv has skills that benefit literally. If you've never been on stage, never want to be on a stage, you can still benefit from the improv skills.
Oh yeah.
And most people think they're good listeners. Well, they're not. Right?
Yeah, and I've had many of people like taking classes, like they have no ambition to be on stages or anything. They'll be like lawyers. They'll be people in the corporate world. And they're just like, I just want to be able to think quick on my feet, and I just want to like be able to speak publicly. And it was like, hey, I love it. Do it. And it's going to help.
At one point you were not an improviser, and then you became one, and then you were an improviser, and then you weren't a teacher, and then you became a teacher. Can you tell me about the journey of what it was like to go from not teaching to teaching?
Yeah. So not teaching, I was just like, I loved taking the classes and I loved improv, and I had a little thing in the back of my mind, because I would make these lists of like, in Chicago, it's like I was taking classes at Second City. Like, ooh, my goal is to, like everybody else, be in a touring company, be on the resident stages. And I always like, I want to make a Herald team. I want to do all this. And then in the back of my brain was, I might want to teach this, but I'm like, nobody's going to listen to me. Like, I don't have that. I was at the point, like, I'm not that authority where, like, I can come in the classroom, like, all right, everybody, let's do this and that. But some years ago, the Playground Theater in Chicago, they had the mixer on Monday nights, and they would, like, invite people to guest teach whatever workshop they want for, like, an hour or so, and then there'd be, like, a jam, and they invited me to teach one. And I love character work. So I taught like a little quick character workshop, and like, it wasn't hard for me. It was like so much fun, and people were like listening to me. And I was just like, I think I want to teach. And another factor is, for people listening, I'm Black. And I never had a Black teacher. I never had a Black classmate. And there'd be stuff that would happen in class where I would look at the instructor to stop it, and they wouldn't, right? Like if I get made a pimp, get made a gang member. Every time I played somebody that's not Black, they would have to justify why this Black person was playing it. So I was like, I want to be that person where a student that looks like me can walk into a classroom and see like, oh, okay, we're doing this too, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be that person too, to like nip a lot of that bullshit and just stop it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think like people's, particularly in my instance, I don't think they're racist or anything. I just think it's ignorance. A lot of times I was the first Black person that they ever interacted with in the classroom, right? So I just wanted to be that voice and to show like, yeah, like we're here too. You're gonna see people like yourself on the stage or in the classroom teaching as well.
Well, and improv's like anything else, right? Like anything that's exclusionary is never as good as it becomes once it is inclusion. Like baseball wasn't as good until like, oh, we can let people from other countries and Black people and all that play. Oh my God, right? Yeah. And improv's the same way. It's like we need those voices. I was, because this has been so, I watched the Black Street Boys Forum, which if you're watching this and you haven't seen that, watch it. There's 2 of them out. They're amazing. If you're a comedian, you watch them. But you know what? It got me thinking. Like, I had some good teachers, and I had some mediocre teachers, but I didn't have teachers with different perspectives, and that shortchanged me and everyone else as students. Yeah. So thank you for stepping up and like being like, hey, we need more diversity in these fucking teachings.
Yeah.
Love it. So what is, you've already mentioned a couple things, characters and listening. What is like if someone has taken multiple classes with Patrick Rowland, what is like a quintessential lesson that is going to be burned into their memory?
A lot of times I repeat it over and over again to trust your gut, trust your instinct, right? Yeah. I always tell them, don't be afraid to fail, because when they start questioning about doing improv just right, which you can't do improv just right, like, ooh, you follow these, you're going to have this perfect product. That's not going to happen. As soon as I can get them out of their head of like thinking about like, I have to do this just right, or I have to follow this exact structure, then you get in your head, right? And then you're not in the moment, you're not listening, you can't yes and shit falls apart. I tell them just try shit, take a chance, especially in a class. That's the best place to fail, because you got somebody there that's going to tell you why this didn't succeed or why it did succeed. Like a lot of times I'll do like, all right, we're going to do a thing. I'm going to call 2 people off the back line, do a scene or whatnot, and people do it. And then I'll see people like looking like to lunge forward to like do a tag out. And I was like, I saw you leaning forward. Why didn't you enter that scene? Well, you set up the rules of like, only 2 people. I was like, well, I'd rather you take that chance and come out and add on to that scene. And then we can see if it works or doesn't work. So a lot of my big takeaways is trust your gut. Sometimes like forget about the rules, just have fun. Right. And like you're only limited by your imagination on that stage. You can literally be anywhere, because a lot of times people like, all right, instead of saying store, say something more specific. And it's like, well, I don't know about Target and I don't know about this. It's like it doesn't matter. It can be a real store, it can be an imaginary store. Guess what? The whole thing is like we are saying stuff and discovering it right there in the moment and justifying it and exploring it, which I think is cool.
I love that. And are those lessons that you would teach primarily to beginners or to master's levels or to everyone?
Everyone. I think everyone needs it. One of the things I love about teaching is I'm learning too. Like I'll be teaching a Improv 1 class or a level A class or a beginning class, and there'll be stuff I'm teaching. I'm like, oh, you know what? I need to start doing that again. I want that fall by the wayside. Like, ooh, I'm making a good point. I need to listen to me. So it's like, no matter how many years experience, it's always nice to like get the fundamentals or some of the basics back into your toolbox.
And I think that is again, that's the thing that kind of crosses platforms, right? Because I feel like no matter what someone is doing or teaching, that most of what I feel like I spend doing as a teacher is just reminding people of those fundamentals that they just, it's easy to forget. It's just easy to I've ascended to this level, so I don't need to worry about that, or I just forgot about that. And it's like, no, we always need to go back to these roots over and over and over.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What is this is maybe a weird question. How do you feel about object work?
I think it's not utilized enough. Whenever I teach a class, no matter what level, I always go back to like beginning object work. I'll give them homework to do with object work because like this is something you can at least do at home. Because I hate seeing a two-person scene where they both come out and they just stand there, face each other, and just try to say funny stuff back and forth.
No.
When you got this whole environment you can use. You can literally be anywhere you want to be. Why are you just standing there, right? And then, like, I tell them, too, like, object work can help you if you are in your head. Like, a lot of times people are like, oh, I edited this scene and I had to start a new scene, but I had nothing. I was like, go to your object work, go to your space work, just start making something because that way you are giving your scene partners something to bounce off of. And it just makes it more, it makes the world we create more real. I always tell my students, like, there was a show where like I was playing a golfer and like I hit the ball out towards the audience and the audience like looked to follow where the ball was going. And it was just like, that just shows how much power we have on that stage that we can, and that's something like I learned from Susan Messon, that we can hook somebody and make them believe that there's an actual ball there, or for them to react to a smelly diaper when there's just air there, right?
Right.
It just makes the world more real. And every class, I'm like, how much object work training have you guys had? And they're usually like, oh, they touched on a little bit. And it's like, all right, this whole class, we're just doing environment work. We're working with the space. I think a lot of these theaters are, I feel like there could be a whole term where you just teach object work. It's much needed and not used as much.
From your lips to God's ears, you're my hero, because like I say the same thing. I tell, like, I mean, I've of all the students I've ever had, I had one student who was good at object work from the get-go because she was a trained mime.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, like, mimes, like, I don't know many, but they spend years trying to get good at mime. And we tell improvisers, hey, and while you're doing it, mime. And like,
yeah.
What? While you're doing it, juggle some chainsaws.
Yeah, like here's the 2 rules for object work. All right, we're not going to talk about it ever again.
But do it and do it well.
Do it right?
Yeah.
That's your finger. Like,
this is not a fucking phone.
Oh my God, yeah. I remember, like, I got the I think it was Rachel Mason. I was in class, level 2 at IO, I want to say, but like we had the object work class, and she gave us a homework assignment of picking up 10 objects a day, studying the weight of it, the dimensions, feeling the finger placement, then put it down and try to recreate it without the object. And I did that for a whole year. Every day I would pick up at least 5 to 10 objects. Even while I was at work, I'd be tying postal bags, and I would step to the side and try to tie it without the objects there because I wanted to get better at it. And it's one of those things. Yeah. Like any muscle, you just got to keep working it. You just can't wait to do it in class. You can do that outside of class.
Yeah, I tell my students, I said, the homework for your rest of your life, if you choose to accept it. Anytime you do anything, do the object work version. I mean, you're my hero, sir. You are my fucking hero.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, like, I always use the example of Colbert. Like, if you watch The Late Show when he would do the opening monologues, sometimes when he do object work, he would put the object down off screen. Like, he would reach for it and put it down. And it's just like, that's because it's like got so ingrained in him when he was going through his training and doing shows that like he does it without thinking, and I do it without thinking. Yeah, a bunch of times my wife is like, "Did you just put down that imaginary cup?" I was like, "Did I? I guess I did."
Yeah, on this imaginary table, and I'm gonna pick up this imaginary book. Was there a lesson that codified for you, not from your classes, but from just doing the work, from performing, that you wish had been taught to you in your classes?
Yeah. Let me see. I would say the thing I wish that was taught more was that I could justify anything, right? We are given that rule of yes and, but a lot of times we're not given the context of like what it actually means. And I, going through classes, thought like, no matter what's thrown at me, I have to explicitly say yes, even if my character wouldn't do this certain thing. And it's more of the actors agreeing to these situations. And I teach that vehemently a lot. I can't say vehemently. I teach it a lot in my class because like I'll have instances where women will tell me like, well, what if I'm in a scene and they make me a hooker, or they make me this, or they make me something, like, I don't want to have to play that. I was just like, you can say yes to the fact that they called you that, and you can heighten it by saying, yeah, I'm a CEO actually, or I'm this, or I'm that. So it was like, I wish I had known I had the power, but I didn't have to always play that pimp or thug or slave or whatever. Like Jesus. I could find a way to justify myself out of that and still like be a great scene partner and still say yes and still push the scene forward and not be put in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. Oof. I wish you were teaching some of the classes I went through back in the day, because good Lord, there were some uncomfortable situations. And it's funny that you brought up that very specific example of labeling a woman a prostitute. I literally was teaching a class earlier, and that happened by a guy who I know is a good guy, and it just kind of came out, and I just stopped the scene. I was like, you know what, we're just not going to label each other hookers. And but it comes up a lot.
Yeah, I think every time it does, or something uncomfortable like that comes up, I'll stop the scene. And I'll ask them, why'd you make that choice? And 95% of the times they're saying, because I thought it'd be funny. And it's just that one thing of like, they think like, oh, this will get a laugh. This will be funny. And I'm always like, don't try to be funny. Like that's where the scene dies, is you trying to force in this joke, because that shows you're not listening. And why not just go for the more honest or more intelligent choices? You'll get bigger laughs that way than trying to go for like the little hokey quick laugh.
So you started in Chicago, you're in LA now, and you've done work, you've traveled and done like festivals and different things like that, right?
Yeah.
What have you noticed about improv outside of Chicago and LA, if any differences or anything that's is there anything?
It's interesting because I remember like my first instance, I went to the Del Close Marathon while I was in classes, and like and to see how other states or other cities how they improvise. And I always tell people I'm a bit of an improv snob, Chicago improv snob, because like, ooh, I came from Chicago, so I know a little bit. But I know it's like in other places, it's either people learning from someone who took intensive in Chicago or someplace else and is bringing it back to their state, so they don't have like a full picture, or some people that just like, oh, I read Truth and Comedy, so I know what's going on. I think I've noticed in different festivals just people trying too hard. I think they make it harder than it has to be, and they lose the fun of it. And it's just as true as people in Chicago, LA, New York, all this stuff. It's just they are trying to imitate what they saw or what made them laugh, or it's like, ooh, this is a great team, I'm gonna be just like them. Where it's like, it works for that team, it's not gonna work for you. You have to find your own viewpoint, your own voice, and be okay failing multiple times until you find it. I failed multiple times till I found like the way I like to improvise, or the right team, being with Blackstreet Boys or being with Three Pete. It's like I found my voice, and then I found people who had like a shared experience, or we have similar tastes, and then that makes the group better, and it makes the improvisation better, it makes the art form better, because it's your point of view as opposed to trying to be Tina Fey or be Cook County Social Club or be Bear Supply, or like, that they're them. Don't be them, be you, right? Don't be the next thing, be the first you.
Yeah. And did you notice it? Because like you started in Chicago in 2006, and I moved there in 2005 to start classes, so we're pretty close. And what I feel like I saw a lot of, and I'm sure I was guilty of it too, was people trying to be things that they'd seen in movies and TV. Like I'm gonna be Chris Farley, or I'm gonna throw one-liners out like Chris Rock or different things like that. And that really is the key, right? Is you have to become yourself.
Yeah.
Or else it's never gonna work.
Yeah, and luckily, there weren't many like all black teams or any where I could like, ooh, I'm going to be that person. I was like, oh, I don't have that, so I got to figure it out for myself. And there were times like, ooh, I love like the group 3033. That was like Sunday nights was my jam. Watching them middle-aged come back, like that was like the improvisers event of the week where everybody came and watched the show. I was like, I want to perform just like them. And I would try to, and it just wasn't right. And I was like, okay, they have their formula. I need to find my own.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you do short form as well as long form. Do you like, in my opinion, getting better at one always helps you at the other both ways. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, and I didn't used to think that. I used to be one of those people who's like, you, short form. I'm a long form person. Short form's kiddie stuff. I used to be like that. I'm not going to BS anybody. I used to be like that. And then I think what changed my mind about short form was actually working on the cruise ships for SC, doing those Norwegian cruise line 4 months, and like 2 of our shows had to be short form shows, and I was just like, ugh, fine, but I'm getting paid, so whatever. And I would do those shows, and it was so much fun. And I was like, oh, this is actually helping me in my long form as well, because it helps me get to the who, what, where quicker, right? I don't have that luxury of like, ooh, I'm going to sit in this scene for 6 minutes. Like, oh, I got to get that shit out quick. And now when I do it for long form, I can get that out quick and then just have fun with what we created. And like the energy is just, there's so much more energy. I have like doing a Mission Improbable show. After the show, I'm sweaty and I have like this high of like, ooh, let's go do this, do that. So the adrenaline gets pumped up, and now like I'm like a short form ambassador. Like, do some short form. Go watch some short form shows.
Yeah. I think that's why they give us free drinks afterwards to calm us down. They're like, all right, have a beer. Like,
yeah.
And I love, and another thing that we, because we can't perform together with Mission Improv, but I think we've only done one show together, and I was like, oh, I feel shortchanged. I love to be on stage with you a whole lot more.
Yeah, get more of those in when everything opens back up.
In 2027. Is there, and this could be on stage or whatever, is there something about improv that just kind of sticks in your craw that you're just like, not this again, that you see kind of recurring patterns?
Oh, God. So many. I've already mentioned like the 2 people coming out and not using the environment.
Talky scenes, yeah.
All. Yeah. I really am, really sticks in my craw when people, when they're doing a tag out, they don't tap the person. They just kind of do that shoo away moment because it just causes confusion. There's like certain like little jokes that like keep reoccurring, like there's 2 people having a scene in Target, and somebody comes in, I'm Mr. Target, right there. I was like, I'm the Mr. Somebody, and I'm guilty of doing it too. But I don't know. It just really irks me. Or when people don't move with purpose, when they're doing an edit and it's like just the slowest walk across the stage.
Yeah.
Right. I want to see people moving with purpose. I want to see people having fun too. When they're like, you leaning on the wall, you got arms crossed. I can't stand that because like it draws people's attention towards you instead of the people in the scene. When they're not in the scene and they're not paying attention, like I hate that.
Anytime any improviser is not paying attention, and as we said, that's the most fundamental thing that we need to do, is just like, how? Like, that's like a basketball player that doesn't dribble. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. How are you not listening? I'm sure we could go on and on about that stuff. But let's talk about leadership style, because I think the one thing that and I've only really, I've been teaching since 2006, and I'm like, I think I'm just now kind of getting it, that when we step foot into a classroom, we've got, 8, 10, 12, however many people, we're the leader of those next 3.5 hours. And yet, I don't know if you had this, I was never trained in leadership. So I kind of learned by a lot of mistakes and leading on the fly. Do you have a style of leadership?
I think my style of leadership or in teaching is like, I like to, because I hated going through classes and having an instructor have me get up, do a scene. I know the scene sucks. We all know it sucks. And then they go, good job, 2 more, right? So I've like through trial and error found a way of like being able to give good feedback without like crushing the person's spirit. So I usually do the compliment sandwich where it's just like, all right, like, that was really good. I love that. I love this. Here's something you need to do. Why'd you do that? And then end with like, but good, but good job. But this is some stuff to work on. I try to, the first thing I want people to know, like, it's like a safe, fun environment. I want to create that safe, fun environment where they leave the class just happy, no matter what. And like it was a lot of trial and error. I didn't have like there's no like school to teach teachers, right? I took a workshop I think once at the Playground Theater, and then I got to shadow some teachers, which I would like adopt some of their teaching styles, and then I would like hone it to help reflect more of me. Like I got to shadow Susan Messing for a whole term. And I was just like, a lot of times I felt myself being like a student, like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like, oh no, I gotta learn for instructor purposes.
Yeah, but I mean, Susan Messing, she's one of the best of us. So it's like you got to learn at her feet any chance you can get, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It amazes me still that, I mean, maybe other schools are doing this, but I mean, I don't know of any in Chicago or LA. Like when I was made a teacher, I think I got to shadow Bina Martin at Second City for 1 term, and then they were like, "Okay, go," and I'm like, "That's it? Cool." I mean, respect to Bina, but like, I don't feel like I learned enough in 1 term shadowing 1 teacher. Like, I feel like you know. Teachers who teach in public school, they're shadowing teachers, they're doing mock classrooms, they're doing all kinds of stuff. And I think that's a big disservice that we as the improv industry has done unknowingly, I think, but that we need to be better. But we need to be, I mean, that's part of the reason for the show is I want to learn from you. I want us to be talking to each other and not be these islands of just teaching in a vacuum.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's something I've like been low-key working on, is like a database of exercises and explanations and whatnot, because like you get like, all right, for this term you're gonna teach you're gonna do the walk around exercise, you're gonna do handkerchief. I'm like, what the fuck is that, right? And then nobody knows, because every improv exercise has 20 different names depending on which city you're in,
right?
So I don't know, I think for these schools, and a lot of schools are starting to restructure now, but like having a thing where instructors like, oh, I want to be a teacher. Cool. You're going to study level 1. You're going to shadow this level 1 instructor for a little bit. You're going to shadow this level 2 instructor. You're going to shadow this level 3, like to make them more well-rounded. Like there's a lot of stuff I just had to find out on my own on how to teach like even more advanced stuff. I love teaching the beginner stuff because I love getting them all bright-eyed and excited before they get crushed by life of improv. Sure. But I think it's like one of those things of like, the community needs to do better. These theaters need to do better with like training the instructors, especially on how to deal with like uncomfortable situations that pop up in class, right? I've not had too many of those happen. I did have one where like a student came in halfway through class drunk, and I had to like take them out in the hall and like, like, have you been drinking? Knowing damn well, yeah, you have. It's just like, all right, you come back next week not drunk. But some people don't have like that training, and I think the trainers need more training. There needs to be more training of the,
because it's really conflict resolution, right? Like, oh, there's a conflict here. I need to be in charge of it. I need the tools.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I love that you're saying that. And actually, so far, everyone I've had on this show is kind of saying the same thing. I think we as teachers we can't rely on the Second Cities and the IOs and the UCBs of the world. I think it's just on us. It's like, we just got to learn from each other. We got to make these documents with exercises and things and just share like we're a unit, we're a network, and we just got to keep doing that.
Yeah, and I think one of the, at least one of the good things coming out of all this lockdown stuff is that because we've had to learn how to reteach shit on Zoom, that we are starting to get those databases. We are connecting with other instructors and like, oh, how do you teach this? Oh, that's a great exercise. Never thought to do that. Like I've learned so many more new exercises that like when the doors do open back up, like I can readapt them back to classrooms.
Yeah.
That's going to make me a even stronger instructor. Got my infinity gauntlet of improv exercises.
Nerd! Saying nerd, calling an improviser a nerd is the most redundant thing in the world.
It's so crazy. That's one of the things too. Like I'll have like students that like will be doing exercises, and I can tell they're like judging themselves, or they're like, "This feels stupid." I was like, the chance to look cool left when you signed up for classes. There's no such thing as like, "Ooh, that improviser's a real cool dude."
Yeah. Tom Cruise would probably not do improv, right?
Yeah, no.
Who knows? Maybe do good. I don't know. I'm not trying to judge Tom Cruise. Sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm sure he's watching. So, we both work at Second City. We both play at the West Side. That we're connected with a lot of different theaters. So this question may be to our detriment, but I feel like one thing that I did get in Chicago that I don't see out in LA, and I'm not even necessarily seeing it in other cities either, is the idea that we don't need the approval of some big theater in order to do something, right? Like my level 1 class at IO, Wes Haney, who I don't know if you knew him, but like he was in my class, and like at the end of day 1, he was just like, so who wants to put together a practice group? Like it was just like, of course we're doing this. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And I see these students all the time who go, I just want to do more improv, but I'm only taking class once a week. And I'm like, do your own thing. Can you talk about like the difference between, telling a student, yeah, you should go through this program, or, hey, why don't you just form your own stuff?
Yeah. So I think I was lucky enough to like, I learned from Jason Schatz. I had him early on in my improv career, and like anybody who's had him as an instructor knows, like he doesn't put up a lot of bullshit in class.
Yeah.
And he told us like he's like, ask how many people are looking to make a Herald team, and like whole class raised their hand. He's like, you got like about a 5% chance of making a team, so you might as well forget about it right now and just have fun with it and hang out and do all that stuff. And I took that so to heart when I was so lucky to have like the 5B class I had. Shout out Pirate Hospital. But we were like so in love with one another. Like after class, we would go to one of our classmates' houses and we would like do bits and do scenes there. And like we even made up our own group before we were done with IO, and we were doing shows already. And I was like, why haven't I been performing before? I always had in my mind, like, oh, I got to wait till I finish all the training before I can hit a stage.
Yeah.
And now I tell students in a beginner class, if you have fun with these people, y'all need to get a sheet of paper, get your contact info, start a chat group or whatever. Start hitting these jams together. Form a group. Start getting on stage right now. Because that's how you get better. It's just getting on stage and doing it and failing and learning from it. I found like, especially teaching out in LA, a lot of people are like, they're just taking classes to put it on their resume, right?
Sure.
And it's just like, okay, that's totally fine, because like improv is totally infiltrated Hollywood now, and now they're saying like, oh, we're looking for improvisers. But if you're not going to learn and you're not going to put in the work, then it's going to easily be noticed when you get to that audition that you can't fucking improvise. And I think, it's just, you got to get on that stage. A lot of times the reason Herald teams fail or are cut is because like they're just jamming these people together who don't know each other, don't have chemistry. And like, that's the biggest thing. You have chemistry with the people, your team can do just about anything. All the top groups, like they hang out, they know each other, right? They're not just like, all right, we'll meet at the show. After the show, we go on our separate ways and never talk
again
until rehearsal, right? At the time, y'all need to hang out.
Yeah, I remember, one of my teachers in IO, and I can't exactly remember who right now, but she said at the end of class, she was like, "I got to get out of here. We're going on a weekend retreat, me and my team." And
Oh yeah.
yeah, they just like went somewhere for a weekend just as a team, just to hang. I don't even think they improvised. They just hung out, and I remember thinking like, that sounds amazing.
It is. I've done that a couple of times. The Harold team, Mrs. Dad, shout out Mrs. Dad.
Yeah, I
We
remember
would
that.
when I joined the group like years after they were established, and they every once a year they go to a cabin out in I think Michigan or Wisconsin, one of those places. And it was just a weekend where we just hung out and had fun, and I looked forward to it every year. There was a
Yeah.
time like a group of 20 of us rented a cabin out. I think it was I forgot where it was again. I'm getting old, but rented a cabin for a weekend, and like there was a TV there, but nobody watched the TV. We all just hung out. We did like just fun stuff. We cooked for each other, and it's just like
Yeah.
just so much fun. That's why I love like things like what Nick Armstrong does with Improv Utopia,
Yeah.
Taryn Rants with the Improv Retreat.
Yeah.
Those camps are the most fun you will ever have in life, and there's so much love and so much just camaraderie and fun. Ugh, I love it.
Yeah.
More
Mrs.
of
Dad
that.
was John Anderson on that team?
Yes, yeah,
Him and I were roommates.
Jandy.
We came up together at college from Texas and moved to Chicago together. Oh, what a fun! I didn't know we had that additional. We have so many connections. I didn't know we had that one too.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's wonderful. So a lot's happening right now in improv. Things are changing.
Yeah.
Do you have any predictions, any guesses, any insight on what improv's going to look like in a year, 5 years, anything in the future?
I have no idea. Like, a lot of people are like, "Hey, they're doing this, they're doing that," and like my response all the time is like, "We'll see," because I've heard this tune so many times where it's just like I'll get excited and then nothing happens. I'm hoping there's a deeper effect. I think because of us having to move, theaters having to move stuff online, I think this is going to be a great benefit because now we're reaching out past just our cities or whatever state this theater is in. Like I can take a class from somebody I've always wanted to take a class from, but now they're in a different state. And I think the reach is getting bigger. I see improv getting bigger. I think there's going to be some kind of big renaissance of improv that's going to take place after all this shit is said and done, where it's going to be truly diverse and truly like more fun than it was before. I'm not going to say it's going to be this picture perfect paradise of heaven of improv. It's going to still be problems because like there's people involved, and with people comes problems. But I think there's like the reach of improv is going to be bigger. And now we have like this new medium where a person, say, in a city where improv isn't as big and there's no theaters, they can go online now and learn from like these bigger theaters and these master instructors and probably take that back and start their theaters in these smaller towns. I think the reach is going to be bigger because of everything.
Absolutely. And I mean, and also like by coincidence, we all move online and we get the first improv comedy special.
Yeah.
We're on TV now. We're like,
yeah.
I mean, like I've been waiting, for improv to have, the stand-up style special ever since I got in, and we have one. So, I mean, surely there's going to be more, right? I mean, I'm expecting Free Beat to have their own special at some point.
Oh yeah, we working on things. But like, that I love you mentioned that because I remember the whole time like trying to explain to family and friends about improv, and like for some reason it just didn't translate well to film. They've tried like besides Whose Line Is It Anyway, but I even found like that's not wholly improvised. It's like, oh, we're gonna do this a bunch of times so we get the best take, right?
Yeah.
But now like you look at and I had my my apprehensions about like Middleditch and Schwartz, right, on Netflix. I was like, oh, here we go, two white guys doing improv again. And I watched, I was like, this is actually funny. They've actually found a way to make this entertaining, even though it was like recorded. And I think now because of having to do Zoom or Google Meet stuff and improvise online, that we're gonna finally have that comedy special. Maybe these networks will be like, hey, we're gonna hire this improv team to improvise and give them money, because give me money, networks, to improvise. Money,
Yeah.
please.
Well, that's the thing that's always bothered me about improv, and what I'm trying to change, and I think a lot of other people do, is that we're an art form, we're an entertainment, and when we're good, like, I get that a lot of improv, some improv is a lot of improv's terrible because people are still learning, and it's and all kinds of things, but for those of our teams that are like great, that can bring it every time consistently, like we should be at comedy clubs, we should be selling out things and whatnot. I remember seeing the first time I saw 3 Beat live was when Roland Riches went on right before y'all at the Oklahoma City Festival. I want to say 2017. Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't remember who was before us, but like they did good, and then we crushed, and then y'all destroyed it, and it was just like not enough people are seeing that. This is worth your night out. This is worth $45 ticket. This is good shit.
Yeah. I remember like being on Herald teams. I think it's been on 6 or 7 Herald teams, and kind of unsure. Just like every show is touch and goes. Like, is this going to be a good show or is it going to be a bad show? Is this going to be a good show or it's going to be a bad show?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of it was like hit or miss. When I do a 3-peat show, that shit's going to be a hit. I have no reservations. I know like people are going to walk away knowing like they got their money worth. This is going to be an amazing show. And there's so many teams like that, but they don't get the exposure that they should, or people don't see those teams. They're just coming on like that Tuesday night where they see this class show, or they see this team that's only been around for a couple of months and they're still trying to figure themselves out, or just a team that like, oh, we can improvise, and it's like crap. It's like it's shit. And I think that's like that whole stigmatism with improv. It's like, you don't know what you're gonna get. It could be bad, but it's like, no, these teams, you're gonna get a good show, no matter when you see them.
Yeah, their worst show is still worth your money.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I just finished The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan Bulls documentary, and I can talk about it all day. But the thing I want to say that's germane to what we're talking about is that what I learned from that documentary, and I watched basketball for most of my life, and I never quite got this. I had that mentality was, oh, if you're a good basketball player and there's 4 other good basketball players, you're a good team. And that's not true, right?
Yeah.
You need to be a unit that works well together. And like, as Allen Iverson showed us, you could be one of the best players that's ever played the game and still not have a good team. And I think, and you kind of mentioned this earlier, is that improv is like that too. You could have 5 of the best improvisers in the world, but they may not work well as an improv team. And consequently, you could also have people who aren't necessarily that great, but when they're with these other people, dynamite.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you're on 2 teams that I feel are both dynamite, the Blackstreet Boys and 3-Peat. Like, did y'all come together because y'all knew each other and you were like, we really want to play together? How did those form?
So with 3-Peat, what happened was we in Chicago, like we would always see each other at auditions, whether it's like a commercial audition or like auditioning for the one black role on the main stage or whatnot. And we're always pitted against each other. And on our respective teams, we'd be the only black person and nobody would get our references, even though we got theirs. So we're just like, you know what? We're going to form a team where like we already know each other. We're already friends. We get each other's references. And instead of being against one another, we're coming together to create something and put something out there that's not out there, right? When 3-Peat started, there wasn't many all-black teams. You had Blackout, you had Pimp Prov, but not really. I can't. And maybe there's some other teams I can't think of, but there wasn't any. And so we were like, we're gonna do this, and we did. I think we did the first show together. It was just 3 of us, me, Namdi, and Brianna Baker, and we did a bar prof show in Mullins upstairs for basically performing for other performers.
And, been there.
And it's one of those things of like performing, and it was like, this was so easy. It wasn't hard. It didn't hurt. We weren't straining. It was just flawless. And it was like, okay, we need to do more shows. And then we added John Thibodeau, Gary Richardson, and Nate Sherman. And then we like ran for a while at IO before, life happens. Rihanna and Nate moved to LA. Gary moved to New York. Thibodeau was touring with Second City. And then when we came back together, me, Namdi, and Thibodeau, and it was like 2015 or so, we started just like doing sketches here and there and doing like one-off shows. And by that time, more Black people were in the community. I did the Bob Curry Fellowship, so I was able to link up with Shantira, with Dwayne, with like Lisa and the rest of them. And like, we like, hey, we like these people. We know them. Let's have them in the group. And then the rest was history. Blackstreet Boys, I wanted to like, because I love West Side so much, and I was just like, hey, there's Black people here too. And I remember, like every time I see Black people, I'm like, hey, I'm Patrick, like you're my best friend. And I remember like talking to Michael Hawk, and I've sent an email because like, hey, I want to form an all-Black team to perform at West Side. Just like I was just doing the same thing, and so like he brought me into the group Blackstreet Boys. And it was, once again, my first show with them. I was like, this is so easy. This was so flawless. Yeah. We got to do more of these.
So fun.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things that came out of like, I like this person. We get along. Let's do some stuff.
I feel like I want to tell that to every improviser. Like, find someone who you get along with, who your humor works, and just try it. Just try it.
Yeah.
Worst thing could happen, you have a practice and it doesn't go well. That's it.
Yeah. I remember, like, my first independent team I tried to start or be with, we rehearsed for 2 months straight, like, with Jet Eveleth, who's, like, just a master improviser. And then we did one show, and it sucked. And then we stopped. Yeah. It was just like, well, this doesn't work. And, yeah, it's just, like, it's so simple. Like, hey, we get along. We have bits during class. Let's do a show. That's the best way to form a team.
I love it. I could talk to you all day, sir, but I think we're good on time here. So what are some plugs? Where can we see you? What do you want to tell people to go to?
Well, you can go to ComedyCentral.com to see videos by 3P. We've done like 4 sketches with Comedy Central. Like us on the social media, 3P Comedy. Blackstreet Boys. You can also find us on the social media. Like you were saying, we did 2 forums. We just did one yesterday. I couldn't be there but it's still just so cool to be able to like just be Black and talk about improv. So find us.
It's great to watch.
We have a show coming up. I don't know when this will go out, but we have a show coming up the 16th of June.
Oh, nice. This will probably be out after that, but
okay. Well,
guys, I'll link them to anything that for future shows. Sure.
Okay, get in the time machine. Go back to June 16th and watch your show. I'm trying to think of what else. I've got projects I'm working on. There's no date set for anything right now. But yeah, find 3P Comedy, find Blackstreet Boys Comedy on social medias. Follow us because we're always posting our next moves and when our next shows are. Yeah, that's
badass, my friend. And I'll find all those links and I'll put them in the show description when they're there. Patrick Rowland, thank you so much for being on the Improv Breakdown. Really appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Rich. I just want to say I really appreciate it. And for all you people listening, November, go vote. Don't boo, vote. For real.
For real.
But thanks, Rich. This was great. I love like nerding out about improv.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about my private coaching, my classes, or my workshops, follow me at Rich Baker Coaching on Instagram or Facebook, or get on my email list, which is all that info is in the show notes below. If you have any questions about improv, please put them in the comments below. I'm going to do a Q&A episode for my 11th episode, and I would love to answer your questions. To get notified about upcoming episodes, subscribe to the Rowland and Rich's YouTube channel and click the little bell icon below. Thanks, improvisers, and keep making each other look good.